All right, welcome back to Grit Gym. Welcome back to Grit Gym. We've got Eric Schwager back. The Schwag is back in here. So you're just gonna have to step this way a little bit. I'll step this way a little bit too. But we're gonna go over a little bit like basically, what do we call this one? How to gain muscle without gaining fat. How are you gonna do that? Okay, because all of us want to put on a little bit of muscle, even if you're not one of these people that's like, I can't afford to gain weight, which is really kind of silly. We should go into that as we go through this, like the triathlon people and the cross country runners and those people that are like, I just can't afford to gain 1 pound of muscle. Right. And it's like, so that's why you're not doing strength training. So we're going to get into what actually builds muscle tissue and some of the myths around it, and we're going to talk about how to do that without gaining tons and tons of body fat. But you want to let them in on where you've been the last like how many weeks has it been?
Yeah, we've just kind of missed each other on vacations. You were out of town, I was out of town. I think last week I was just lazy. So it's been 3 or 4 weeks. So yeah, I'm back. Good to be back on track. Hopefully we can keep these rolling out on Thursdays.
Yeah, definitely.
Again.
All right, and just to give some background, 10 years ago, how much did you weigh?
Let's see, 10 years ago, I would have been 16. So I was the same height, like 6'4", and like 175, 180.
Were you really
when I was
that big?
16? Yeah.
Yeah.
And 75, 180. Whereas now, so that's,
and what do you weigh
that's
now?
60 pounds less. I'm just over 230 right now. So.
230. Did you go to when you went to college? How much did you weigh?
So I would have graduated. I think I graduated high school right around 195.
195.
Yeah.
So 6'5". It's not like 6'5", 175 is a really skinny dude, right?
Yeah, it's pretty skinny.
Yeah, super skinny. Like so just put it in perspective, we might know a little bit. Welcome back, Aaron Shaw says. But we might know a little bit about gaining muscle because like when I was like, this is more than 10 years ago now, but when I first started lifting, I was 6'2", 145 pounds.
Yeah.
And within 3 months, I was 6'2", 185 pounds.
So you put on weight really easy.
Well, I did. I mean, puberty helped out a lot.
Yeah.
I was eating like 30,000 calories a day.
Mm-hmm.
One of my, I tell this to all the high school kids, but one of the meals that I would eat, I eat this like 3 times a week, is I would do a pound of bacon and I'd cut it up into strips, right?
Yeah.
And I'd put that in the skillet, get that going, right? And then I'd do scrambled eggs. I'd do a dozen scrambled eggs and I'd put like onions, tomatoes, and a bunch of different crap in there. And then I wouldn't drain off any of the grease. And I'd pour that in over the top of all of that grease and all that bacon and stir it up. And then I'd drown that in either ketchup or salsa. And I'd do that like 3, maybe 5 nights a week. And that was after, so like we would have supper at like 7 o'clock. And then after that, at like 10 o'clock, I'd make that meal again.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah, I was putting down a lot of calories. But I came back to school and no one knew who I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was at the end of school, these 2 girls that I'd known since I was like 4 years old, they came up to me and they go, Adam? And I was like, yeah, what? They're like, we knew it was you. They had no idea who I was. Yeah, right. It's pretty cool. But yeah, so like when it comes to gaining mass, like what's like top 3 things that you want to cover in this video?
So let's say eating to gain weight, what types of food you should be eating, some strategies to eat enough calories, because a lot of like athletes and younger people who are just wanting to get bigger and stronger really struggle with that key component of it, getting enough calories in, which is a huge part of their recovery. And like I'd say for myself and people who have more of this ectomorphic body type, it's it can be kind of a challenge to get enough calories in without hating how you're living. Like I've worked with a lot of high school athletes who have that problem, just not eating enough or not realizing how much they need to eat, or not knowing what foods they need to eat in order to be able to get in enough calories without their stomach being so full that they can't eat anymore.
No,
I don't know if that was 3, but so what do we got up there?
All right, so I'm gonna go. My big 3 that I'm gonna go into are eating for your body type. Like Eric already hit on it. He's extreme ectomorph. I'm pretty much as mesomorph as it gets. And certain people are endomorphs, and how you should eat for that. And then I'm also going to go into how I do a cut or a gain, like if I'm trying to gain muscle or if I'm trying to to lose fat, what I do on a day-to-day on a day-to-day and week-to-week basis during those time frames. And then also we're going to go, or I really want to hit on the pre and post workout side of things. Like, what do you eat right before you go into your workout, and what do you eat right after you go into your workout? And by the time we're done with that portion, I want to make it just absolutely indisputable that it is obvious that your pre-workout meal is far more effective than your post-workout meal. And you'll see that as we get into it. But you got your 3? What was your first one?
Yeah, so let's see. My first one.
Well, maybe let's go into the myths first, real quick, because you already hit on a few of them. So, like, obviously, we're talking a lot about calories, right? We're talking a lot about food and growth. So maybe first big question: does lifting alone make you gain mass?
It creates the stimulus to make you gain mass, but no, you're breaking yourself down when you're lifting. So if you don't complement that with getting enough calories, no, you're not going to gain mass. It creates a stimulus for it, but it itself is not building you up bigger.
Yeah, it's the catalyst, but it's not like the thing that does the growth. Like, so what does do the growth then? If we just came in and lifted all day long, but we didn't change anything outside the gym, will we gain muscle?
No.
Will we look like Arnold?
No, you'd start getting smaller. You'd basically be killing yourself slowly if you weren't getting. Well, let's say if you were getting, if you're at a calorie deficit and you kept trying to push your weight's up at the same time like crazy. Yeah. You're slowly breaking yourself down without.
Yeah. And what I really like the two, like, this is a huge misconception, is that lifting makes you gain weight. Lifting is the catalyst, and then how you feed your body and how you recover is how you're going to gain weight. So really, then the question becomes, why do we do strength training? Well, we do strength training to get strong, and that's it. Like, past that, if we want to gain muscle, like, there's a catalyst for that. If we want to lose fat, we're creating a catalyst for that too. Like, but the ultimate reason to do strength training is to get strong. It's not necessarily to gain muscle mass.
Right.
Yeah. But okay, so, and then also, is gaining muscle easy?
No, it's time consuming. It's not, I mean, it's as easy as you, no, it's not easy. Short answer.
Yeah, it's super hard. How much work have you had to put into going from 170 pounds to 235 pounds, let's say?
I mean, like every day for the last, since I weighed that much, it's like, it's an everyday process. Like, if you skimp out on your calories one day, that's a whole day that you're never going to get back that you were 500 calories short on, and then you got to make that up somewhere.
Yeah, do you remember the first conference that we went to, and we were talking about this, and you go, yeah, you probably lost 12 pounds this weekend. and you weren't kidding.
I don't remember that.
You're like, because it's just, when you go to conferences, you're eating on the road. It's just really hard to get enough calories, because like, you go out to breakfast at a breakfast place and they give you 2 eggs, and you're like,
yeah, everything has 2 eggs.
It's like, why? like I eat 8 eggs every morning. Like, you think 2? Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot of work. Now, is it more work in when you're doing your strength training, or is it more work when you're doing your food, or is it equal, or is it?
I think, like, for me, that's an easy answer. It's definitely more work. Like, the training for me is fun, but when you're starting, the training will seem like the hard part, and then once you get into it more, it's like the training's the easy, enjoyable part. Getting enough calories, eating enough meals, putting all that time in cooking, and then as well as the rest of, like, the recovery modalities we were talking about in our other videos, sleep, everything that goes along with recovery. That's the hard part. That's your 24/7 job. Like, the training just takes an hour or 2. And it's done.
And it's probably a little bit different from person to person.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
I can put down insane amounts of food. Like, I've won eating competitions. Like crazy. Like, for me to put down 10 pounds of food, like, I'm going to be full, but I'm not going to be sick. Most people are going to top out around like 4 pounds.
Yeah,
like 4 pounds of food, and they're going to be like, oh my God, I'm so sick. And I'm just like, give me more. I'm still going strong. So some people, like, and it's been different for me at different points in my life too. When I first started strength training was so much fun, and the eating part was the hard part. Like, just like, I put so much work into eating, and I would eat until I almost puked, and then I would wait 2 hours and do it again, and wait 2 hours and do it again, and wait 2 hours and do it again. So, like, 14-year-old boy eating 30,000 calories a day, it takes quite a bit.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. All right. So what about eating six times a day? absolutely necessary? Should it be used for fat? And why did it even come up? Like, why 6 times a day? What is it with the 2 hours to 4 hours?
I don't think there's anything magical about prescribing a certain amount of meals a day. Whether it's like you hear this argument, like 3 or 6 is the big ones. Like people go back and forth. Like 3 is like the old school 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then you have all these like bodybuilder types talking about 6 meals a day, and it's like
you have fat loss people talking 6 meals a day too.
You
have like anti-diabetic people talking 6 meals a day, or they're not. I need to backtrack. They're arguing. So you have like anti-diabetic, like how do we get better from being having diabetes, type 2 diabetes? Well, like you have people in there that are like, no, 3 meals a day with 1 snack, and you're like, no, 6 meals a day. You know, like there's different people going back and forth in each one of those demographics that he's talking about.
Right.
Yeah. But
yeah, I don't think it's super magical. Like I wouldn't want to get all my calories in one feeding a day, but I also wouldn't want to space it. Like so, I'm just literally eating slowly throughout the whole day. It's going to come down to the full, like how many calories you're taking in, and there's some stuff with that, like you want to space out your protein during the day. You don't just want to get all your protein in one feeding. But like to a certain point, it's the more meals there's nothing magic about 3 and 6 in my opinion.
Yeah, me either. I personally really like 3 with 1 snack. And getting the majority of your calories later at night if you're just going for day-to-day maintenance. But if you're a person that doesn't have a huge capacity for food and you need extra calories, then we probably do want to move towards like 6 meals a day. But if you're a person like me, like I need 3 meals a day and I'm good. I'm more than good.
I think like everything else in the realm of fitness, it just comes down to experimenting and seeing what works for you, because there's so much. There's so much variance from person to person, and just like what's going to be sustainable for people, what's going to work over the long run. Yeah,
and work for you doesn't necessarily mean like that the science isn't going to work for your body. It's
right. Yeah,
will it work for your lifestyle?
Yeah, right. Lifestyle.
Yeah. Are you going to be able to keep eating 6 meals a day for the rest of your life? Well, not very many people can do that logistically. So it might be kind of hard. Whereas like if you're someone like me that can put down as much food as most people eat in a week in one meal, then you're probably going to be fine just eating 3 meals a day. But anyway, so those are some of the myths. Like strength training is not necessarily about getting huge. It creates a catalyst for what can be, but how you eat is actually going to dictate if the muscle grows or shrinks. Gaining muscle is not easy. Just because you touch a weight doesn't mean that you're going to get bigger. And 6 meals a day is not bogus, but it's also not some kind of, like you said, there's nothing magical about it. So what was the first one that you were going to go into?
So I just wanted to address so talking about gaining weight, like why would you want to gain weight? Generally, well, there's kind of 2 reasons. One is in like a more of a like clinical setting. If you're underweight and you're so underweight that it's causing problems. But what I want to touch on is like gaining weight for the sake of being bigger, stronger, faster. And so like a lot of people don't really realize how much they need to eat, and we know like for sure that like it's going to be easier to put on muscle the more of a calorie surplus you're in, and some of that will be fat, but that's just kind of how it's going to be, and you can deal with that later. But if you're really wanting to put on muscle fast and bulk up fast, you want to be in a calorie surplus. And
it's going to be really, really difficult to keep getting stronger without having some kind of change in your like how many calories you're eating just in general.
I think one big thing, like I'll tell people to do, if you're not worried about how much weight you're gaining and you're just trying to get as big as possible, I think the 1 gram per pound of body weight is a really good place to start, because like although it's almost certainly going to be more than anyone is actually using, you might as well overshoot a little bit better than undershooting, right? Like I mean, the research
protein's very stable.
You're not going to see negative effects until you start going like 6 times body weight on the liver and kidneys. Then you might start seeing some negative effects. But up to that,
6 times your body weight would be insane.
Or not body weight, 6 times your 6 grams per pound of body weight.
Yeah, that's
it would be insane. Like
that.
I don't even know how you
2
go
pounds
about doing
is pretty
that.
tough. It's quite a bit, really.
Yeah. And so that's just a good place to start. If you're getting that, that's all the protein you'll need. Anything, and as well as being hard to ingest, protein is going to be the most expensive macronutrient as far as food costs, with like meat being really expensive, where carbohydrates is really cheap. Fats are also really cheap.
Yeah. That's why I eat so many eggs.
Protein powders. Yeah. Eggs being like the cheapest good source of protein.
Cheapest, lowest digesting. Yeah.
So that's a good place to be with your protein. And then as far as the rest, so I guess going back from this, first you would kind of want to figure out how much, get a general idea of how much calories you're burning in a day. And so this would be your total daily energy expenditure. And there's ways online, like there's calculators online that you can go to. Basically it factors in 4 different things. I think it's basal metabolic rate, so how much you would just sit around if you're just laying in bed all day. Asleep, how much would you burn? And then it takes into account your physical activity expenditure, so things just like getting around, doing activities of daily living. And then your exercise expenditure, so actual like pre-planned, going to the gym, working out, going for a walk, a run, for non-transportational purposes. And then I think the 4th is thermic effect of food, so when you eat food, just that digestive process.
Yeah, and that's something that's easy to brush over for a lot of people, but I don't think they realize that they don't take into consideration that they're going to burn calories. They're going to actually create a caloric deficit from working out, so they actually have to work out. They have to eat more to get into that, surplus if they want to gain muscle.
Yeah.
So these people that are doing like marathon workouts that are 2-3 hours long, and they're wondering why they can't gain weight, like sometimes like you got to shorten down your window of exertion so that you can rest more and so that you can eat more calories.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can go online, you can find one of these calculators. Some of them are a little more specific in that in the like type of exercise, in where the exercise you're doing. Some of them will just be like, how many times a week do you work out, and is it like light, moderate, or intense type of workout? Some of them actually have activities on them that you can plug in, like specific, like swimming, biking, and do it how many times a week, and that's going to be a lot more accurate as far as. But anyway, you find so a good place to start here, you could find your total daily energy expenditure. Start maybe 500 calories up from that. So if you're overshooting 500 calories of your daily energy expenditure, you'll gain about a pound a week. And so by knowing that, then that's a good starting point, and then you can move it up or down from there. If you think you're gaining weight too fast and you think you might be getting, like, adding on more fat tissue than you want, you can scale it back a little. Or if you aren't seeing as much progress as you want, you can scale it up.
And really, until you get tested as your individual body, you're not going to know. But some of these things being available to you, it gives you at least something to work off of, and not just kind of going out of thin air.
Right. There's so much genetic variance that those online things are, like, unless you go into a lab and get tested directly.
And even then, you're not going to absorb not all the food that you eat is going to get absorbed, and your body is going to react to it differently. And there's just so many factors that are going to go into this that it's pretty hard to pin down to just like an absolute number. So you really got to be keen on like seeing the result, like some kind of measuring of results that you are getting. But anyway, so that's how much. So
anyway, so you know how much. Say you figure out
something else.
Like for me, my total daily energy expenditure is probably around. I'd think it's maybe around 40. I think I did this once in class in college, and then it was at that time it was like 4,200 calories on average a day for a week. That's just a daily average with physical activity. The days I was doing that was actually more, and the days I wasn't working out was a little less, but that's what it averaged out to. Yeah. And so I know that I would have to hit at least that many calories or about to gain weight, or to stay at the same weight. And if I wanted to gain weight, I'd have to eat more than that. And so then if I'm going back to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, I know that I'd need like 200, and at the time I think I was 225 pounds, I need 225 grams of protein. And so if I take 1 gram of protein is going to have 4 calories in it. So if I take 225 times 4, what is that, 900?
Get it.
I think.
Get that number.
Yeah, 900. So there's 900, and so that's not a lot. Like that might seem like a lot of protein, but that's only accounting. That's less than a fourth of my total calories, right? If I need to eat 4,200 just to maintain weight, so that's actually not that much total calories. And then so I'm left with everything else. The only other calories I'm getting are either going to be from carbohydrate, fat, or alcohol. Those are like the only other things that we ingest that have calories. And so carbohydrate is also going to be 4 calories per gram. Fat's going to be 9 calories a gram, and alcohol is 7. And hopefully you're not getting too much from alcohol. But
like there's something right now that's really popular with the keto stuff. Like the keto diet is basically where you don't eat anything but protein and fat, right? The interesting thing that we found on this from a fat loss standpoint or from a muscle gain standpoint is that when people are in a caloric surplus on the keto diet, they do not gain muscle as fast. This is just current research is showing us this. This might, it could be dispelled in the future. But we also know that when people are on a keto diet and they're in a caloric deficit, so they're eating underneath their necessary needs, they actually lose more muscle faster on the deficit, and they gain less muscle on a surplus. So basically what that's showing us is that carbohydrates are more important than we were giving them credit for in the past to gaining muscle tissue. So what he's saying there, like only a fourth of his intake is protein, then that's because he wants a certain amount of carbohydrate in his diet as well, especially for an ectomorph.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting. So, and I wonder, Adam knows a ton more about this stuff than me, and so going back to carbohydrates, as far as from a nutrition standpoint, we know that carbs are your fuel for high intensity activity, and so I'm wondering does that research maybe I'm thinking maybe it's either one, it could be because your physical activity or your exercise just can't be quite as intense,
right?
So you can't create as big of a stimulus, but maybe then, or is it some of that protein getting converted into carbohydrate in the body to be used for that high intense activity, and so your net protein absorbed for protein synthesis is so much less.
Is it adding an extra stressor, or is it we can't amp up enough to actually we can't actually work as hard, our work capacity is diminished, or is it both?
Or is it just limiting your total protein because you're having to convert so much into carbohydrate to replenish the glycogen in the muscles? And
I would imagine it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, right. I think so.
Because if you don't have any glycogen in if you're trying to go through an anaerobic type workout and your body's only 2 energy sources are fat and protein, they're not going to burn. It's not that there's no gasoline. It's
right. Yeah. That's how I think of carbohydrate too. It's like a gasoline.
Yeah.
I think of simple carbohydrates as like a jet fuel. You want it simple carbohydrates.
High combustible.
Yep. And they'll dump a bunch of free glucose into your blood. And so for me, this is another trick I'll do. If there's any time to eat junk food, it's actually right before a workout.
Fuck yeah.
Right? Because you're going to have that, because your muscles will just take that glucose right from your blood and use it as a diminish. And so for me, and this is just, it complements well with all the extra calories you're going to be burning. So if you're trying to gain weight, on my way here, a lot of times I'll stop by Daylight Donuts and get a donut and eat that right before the lift. So I always just feel way better if I get some simple carbohydrates right before that lift. Whereas as generally, you wouldn't necessarily want to do that. Eat a ton of simple carbohydrates at other times because you'll spike up your
it didn't help you.
Blood glucose. It definitely doesn't help. A lot of people will be all right with it, but
I mean, and we could even go into the insulin stuff right here. Insulin is arguably more anabolic than testosterone.
Right. Yeah.
So right after your workout, you want that insulin spike. A lot of those big, huge dudes, they're not just shooting up testosterone; they're putting insulin in their bodies and human growth hormone in the bodies. So this goes back to some of the whole is it really easy to get big? Well, those huge dudes are putting complete hormonal replacement. but anyway, we on some level we want a little bit of that insulin.
That could be another thing with keto.
Yeah, I mean, that's another perspective. Maybe that's what's going on.
And and we're not trying to bash on keto here.
Not at all.
From looking back at I don't know anything about it, but I can say like, yeah, I'm like, I look at it and like, oh, I can definitely see how that's healthy. I just don't know if it's as conducive to like an athletic lifestyle.
Right. Yeah. That's
like
a really
maybe
good point
it's even
too.
more healthy, but like it depends what you value more. Like, but going back to insulin, that's another thing you might be missing out on is this effect of insulin. Like, for example, like right after exercise as well, I'll take a bunch of simple carbohydrates in. I'll do like a scoop of, like I have these big containers of maltose and dextrose, and I'll do a big scoop and I'll get like over 100 grams of carbohydrate. So that's 400 calories right there in my post-workout shake, along with like about 40 grams of protein and then some fats. And so right away, in hopes of spiking my insulin up, so that dumping all those simple carbohydrates spikes that insulin, so it gives it, and after exercise,
tapping that vein.
After exercise, you have even more of an insulin, like you just depleted all these stores of this stored energy, glycogen in your muscles, so your muscles really want to uptake it, so that insulin's ready to go, and then that insulin protein synthesis will increase. The rate of protein synthesis, or how fast your cells use protein to build stuff, will increase in the presence of insulin. It'll speed that up. So that's just another little trick as far as gaining weight or maximizing your your post-workout gym time.
Yeah, but it doesn't really take much for your cells to open up and say, "Feed me." Like it really doesn't. It only takes about a minute of exertion for your body to be like, shove more crap in that muscle. We need to go. Your body's extremely efficient. So, but like everything that Eric just said about like carbohydrates and feeding, some of that, part of that works really, really well. Like Eric should never go on a keto diet for one, because he's an extreme ectomorph, right? Like I could probably benefit from going on a keto diet, but an extreme ectomorph is going to have a really tough time keeping muscle mass on with the keto diet, just because they're like an ectomorph is somebody who's usually like quite like very tall, very rangy, usually has a really hard time gaining muscle mass and a really hard time gaining fat too. So they're going to respond really well to the typical Western style diet, the higher carbohydrate with the higher protein with lower amounts of fat. Whereas like an endomorph is going to put on fat really easy, is going to put on muscle really easy, or much easier, I should say. So it's really hard for an endomorph to gain muscle without gaining body fat. Very, very difficult. But they're probably going to do extremely well on a keto diet just because it's so low carb. They don't respond to carbohydrates near as well as an ectomorph would. So an ectomorph can handle just more carbohydrates in general. So an endomorph, if you're talking pre and post workout nutrition, they probably don't need to eat anything before they work out, but afterwards would be a really good time. You know, if they do have that like carb craving after a workout, would be the time for an endomorph to do that. Mesomorphs, like they're just right in between. There's literally right in between. There's no clear-cut answer to them. Yeah, if you eat too much, you get fat. But I do think like there's something really interesting going on with the low carb thing. Like I don't know, like if a cross country type endurance athlete did more of a low carb diet. Like if they were an endomorph, I think they'd probably respond really well to it. Yeah. But like an ectomorph trying to do the cross-country endurance thing is probably going to do really poorly on. I think that might be a thing. Like logically, that would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, it might make sense. Like an endomorph doing good on that. Like maybe their body's in one just more genetically predisposed to store fat because they use it more efficiently. Because they use it more efficiently,
right? And it is the more efficient fuel. I mean,
right? Yeah. Per gram, it's way more efficient. It just can't be converted to energy as fast.
Right. Yeah. And if you think about it, like we think of storing fat on our like our bellies or in our body, right, around our organs, that's storage of energy, right? But we don't think of our muscles being storage of energy. That's all they are. These are energy stores, just like your fat cells. And you have glycogen and glucose and everything else stored around in your body too. So. These are all floating around. We all have these. But anyway, ecto, meso, endo. What else were we going to talk about? Oh, yeah. So we kind of went in a little bit about so this is how, so we did that. We did that. We did this. We did this. All right, so let's get into, this is a little bit like on my strategy. You can jump in at any time.
Yeah, okay.
And see if this, but like if we are going week to week and month to month, let's see if this has some. And we're going Monday, Tuesday, You write it. My handwriting is so awful. So we got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? So what I'll do is if I'm trying to go on a gain, if I'm trying to gain weight, oh, is it not perfect?
You need a little more space. I don't know what you're going to have me writing.
So that's good. Yeah.
Okay.
And so what I'll do is I'll pick out one day where, this is what I do up front, is I know that if I'm trying to gain, I'm only going to use 10%. So I'm going to be plus 10% calories, plus 10%, plus 10%, plus 10%. But I'm going to pick out 2 days that are back-to-back where one of them I'm going to fast, where I'm not going to eat anything the entire day until like 7, 8, 9 p.m. So I'll usually do that I'll always fast on Saturday. Saturday is always my fast day, no matter what. So this is always fast. And so we'll leave this open. So this is what I would do on a gain. If I'm trying to cut, I do the exact opposite. I still pick a fast. So Saturday is still my fast day where I don't eat anything at all. But I'll drop 10% calories on the weekdays on all of these. So just like a negative minus 10%. So this is where my strategy comes into play, because eventually your body is going to respond to anything. Your body is going to adapt to anything that you impose upon it. So what I really want to do is I want to mix it up. I want to make sure that my metabolism isn't just getting used to the negative 10%. So what I'll do is I'll pick a day where I'm going to fast, but I also pick a day where I'm going to gorge. So like I call it gorge fast, where I'm basically going to eat 2 times as much as I normally eat. So if I was normally eating 5,000 calories a day, I would add 50 calories, or I'd add 500 calories, or I'd drop 500 calories from my day to day. And then, which one was fast, which one was gain? Oh yeah, the plus. So on a gain, kind of getting backwards on this.
Would just be gain down here?
So, no, I'll switch it actually. So I fast here, so that means that I don't want the, so if I'm trying to cut, I'll do just do a 2x. And then I'll fast on Saturday. So on Friday, I'll literally eat double the amount of calories that I normally would eat, just to mix up so that my metabolism isn't, so that my body doesn't just adjust. It's not, your metabolism isn't an organ. I get so tired of people talking like it is. Your metabolism is not an organ, but your body will adjust. Your body will adjust, so I'm like, hey body, well, you're not so smart, even though you have literally billions of years of evolution on me. So I'll double my calories here so that my body's like, holy shit, like I'm so full, like I can't deal with this many calories all at once. And then I'll fast on Saturday, and then I'll do another 10% lower on Sunday. So 5 days out of the week, I'm going 10% less, and then I double, and then I fast. Now when I'm trying to gain weight, I do the complete opposite. So I fast, and then I double on Sunday. So that my body, so I fast so that because my body's going to get used to 10% extra. So it'll get used to whatever you give it, and then it'll just kind of top out and it won't change. So I fast so that it will use more of the calories on Sunday. And this is kind of what works for me. And then this will be 10%, and this will be 10% less too. Did you ever see anything like that?
No.
But the whole reasoning with the fast thing is from a hormonal standpoint, your testosterone goes up, your protein synthesis is better, your body, like there are tons of health benefits from fasting all day long. And the gorge is so that my body isn't getting used to whatever I'm giving it. It just stirs the pot. It's like, oh, well, you don't know what's going on anymore, do you? But anyway, that's how I do it.
Makes sense. I've never seen that, but I see what you're saying there. For
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's just a really simple way to go about it. If you want to lose weight, the recipe is you sleep 1 extra hour and you drop 10% of your calories. But that's only going to work for 6 to 12 weeks. Everything works for 6 to 12 weeks, and then it doesn't. But no, how do you mix up yours? Do you change your workout?
Eat as much as I can.
You just eat as much as you can all the time?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I guess I was messing around with a fast. It was like 3 times a month, so about once every 10th day. I was trying to do a fast where I would, I don't know how I'd write it out. So basically the idea, and it was a daily fast in attempts to gain weight, And so the idea with it would be I'd go like 24 hours without eating, and then but I would time it so that, and it wouldn't just be one day from waking to sleep again. So I'd like start, say at like 4 p.m. the day before, go to 4 p.m. the day after, and then I would have another like 4 hours before I went to bed to eat as much as I could. And I would try to get in, say if I'm eating 4,500 calories a day, I would try to get in like somewhere like 3,000 to 3,500 calories, and so I'd be down 10,000 for that day, but it was in hopes of a few things. One, possibly boosting testosterone. Two, hopefully increasing my sensitivity to protein. But then the big one, slowing down my metabolic rate for the next however long, who knows, like I have no idea without measuring in a lab how long it would have an effect, but hopefully over the next 4 to 7 days my metabolic rate was slowed a little bit from that fast, and then even though I lost out on 10 to 1,500 calories on the day I fasted, it was in hopes that I would gain that, I'd end up putting on more than that in the next few days by decreasing my metabolism. So if it lasted 5 days and I got 500 calories more during those 5 days, that's 2,500 calories. Right. Or if I only lost out on it, so I'd be 1,000 up. So.
Yeah, I think it's important to look at the whole week too, not just look at day to day to day to day to day. Like I might be 10% lower here, but these days, and I might fast for a day, and I might double my caloric intake for a day, but these are a wash. Like these 2 days, like I might not eat anything for a day, just like what he was just saying. I might not eat anything for a day, and I might eat double there. So these two are a wash, and this is where I'm making all my my gain.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you want to talk a little bit about strategies for going into a surplus. Like, what are some things you do just to get the calories in?
For sure,
that's really what it's going to come down to.
So for most people, unless maybe you're Adam and can eat excessive amounts of food at once, you're going to want to eat more than 3 meals, because you're just not going to be able to eat enough in one meal. Like I get to around like 1,000 calories of like cleaner food. It's going to fill me up to the point where like, I have a fast metabolism, so like after a couple hours after that meal, I'll be ready to eat another one, but I just can't eat a whole lot at one time.
Yeah.
And so
you got to grow that, man. You got to be.
I've tried.
You got to be committed.
And so yeah, just more feedings. But that being said, too, the blender is going to be your best friend, because if you're just chewing like constantly all day, it gets really old. You're just like, I feel like a cow or something. Like you're just always just chewing on food. It gets really old. And so like a smoothie is a great way to get a bunch of calories in really quick without it feeling like, with also a small amount of prep time. And so like for me right now, I try to do 3 solid meals a day that are at least in 1,000 calories, and then 2 shakes during the day. And like my rule for myself is I alternate between a solid meal and a shake. Just for no other reason besides I want to spread out, because in the shake I'll use protein powder, and I like to spread protein powder out with an actual like natural
a lot of people get
source.
sick if they have protein powder over and over and over again. They just get really sick, and it doesn't work out very well. But doing the smoothie thing also is a really good way to, like, on the go. Logistically, like you can pound a smoothie in under 5 minutes. You
can make it and drink it in like 5 minutes.
Right, and I really like that too.
It's really easy to get, like anywhere 700 to even 1,000 calories in a smoothie is pretty easy. And then going along with that, at every meal I try to get something from every food group, and that applies to my smoothies too. So like I always bring the same smoothie to work in the mornings. It's like I do 12 ounces of whole milk, a scoop of frozen berries, a half a banana, kale. So then I got fruit and then oatmeal. So I got my dairy, I got fruits, protein there would be protein powder, and then vegetables is kale, and then I'll put some coconut oil in that for some more fat. And so there it's like 800 calories. And I can get that down in 5 minutes or less. And then another thing, shakes are awesome because you can do it right before bed without feeling like some people get kind of either eating a big meal won't be able to get comfortable enough to fall asleep, or it'll just keep them up. Where other people just pass out. I don't think that doesn't have that
that's
effect
what PM
on me.
was
But
supposed to mean.
yeah, shakes are awesome right before bed. You can get it in even if you ate dinner a few hours before. You can still knock down a shake pretty easy.
Yeah, it's basically you do the complete opposite of anything that fat loss people tell you to do.
Yeah,
do the
yeah,
opposite.
exactly.
So liquid calories, no good for fat loss.
Yep.
They suck. But for somebody that's trying to gain muscle,
yeah, right.
definitely.
Yeah, I love that point. I remember this nutrition class I took in college, and they were talking about like a bunch of big rules for fat loss, and I remember going home and like, I'm going to try to do the opposite of all these.
Yeah.
And like one of them,
basically.
yeah. So that's a really good one. No liquid calories. Get a ton of liquid calories. Another one is like, so you hear using smaller plates a lot. So use bigger plates, or just
use way bigger plates.
Always try to eat
always
two plates.
Go with the big bowl. Finish everybody's food. Yeah.
And then like don't eat in front of the TV because you can't keep track of how much you do.
Yep.
Like eat in front of the TV, so you're distracted. And then or portions. If you're going to eat something out of a bag that has a bunch of servings, put it on a plate first and do it. Like if I'm going to eat, I'll always, if I have a side or something that's going along with it that's from a big bag, I'll always bring the whole bag with. So sometimes I'll be sitting in my living room, I have like a whole jar of like stuffed green olives there, a whole bag of trail mix. Like I have all these, so I can just eat it until I can't.
Yeah.
And I don't. And then, well, one that kind of goes with both with nutrition. One thing is keeping food like clean foods easily accessible.
Yep.
That's going to go with both. But even keeping all foods easily accessible,
all foods
and a lot of calorie dense, easily accessible options. Because no matter what, whether you're trying to lose weight or gain weight. Just being lazy is going to be one of the biggest things that gets in the way. Like you're not going to want to go in and do all the work it takes. So nice to have something that you can just grab out of the fridge.
Yep.
So if it's someone trying to gain weight, nice that you can
maybe that's the one that really goes well for gaining weight or cutting weight.
They might be slightly different types of food, but food preparation
is always going to be a really good thing.
Nice if you can if you always have some option, you can go to the fridge and get something out that you could do 1,000 calories with, and it doesn't take any time to prepare.
And if you if you are trying to gain muscle, you get to go places like Subway. If you're, even though Subway sucks, but it just doesn't taste very good. It's just gross.
No,
but if you're trying to cut fat, you don't get to go places like Subway.
Right.
You just don't get to.
And another thing with that is like same with kind of liquids, like putting dressings and all this stuff on your food.
Yeah, drown it in ketchup.
Right, it's going to taste better with it. Well, one is just some extra calories, like ranch is a big one for me. Like extra calories, but also it makes it taste better so that you will eat more of it. Whereas fat loss, you don't want to do that with weight loss. Yes, put on all your dressings.
Yep. You want the addictive foods. You're trying to make yourself hungry so that you'll go back and get more. Yeah, that was one of the things Rach asked me the other day. Like we were talking about like how much I used to eat.
Yeah.
And I was like, she was like, "What would you do?" I was like, "Well," she was actually going on. We were talking about like how much junior high boys eat, and you're like, "You have no idea how much I ate." I mean, I eat like. And she was like, "What would you do if you go back?" I was like, "Well, I would have a protein. I'd have at least 3 scoops of protein, a whole cup of coconut oil." Like I'd blend up all this stuff and then I'd drink that right before I'd go to bed if I could go back. Yeah. Just to because those calories at night, your body's extremely active at night. It's not just sitting there not doing anything. Like you want those going in, and that way you don't feel so upset. Like you would, like your stomach, like you eat enough food, your stomach's going to be upset for a little while.
Yep.
Yeah. And if you're not eating enough food to the point that you feel thirsty, then you didn't eat enough food.
Yeah, and going along with that, don't drink too much water before a big meal. Better drink what water you can after because you don't want to fill up on a bunch of water. Whereas for some people, for weight loss, that works really well. Drinking.
Yeah, drinking 2 cups of water before you actually eat is a very good strategy. For fat loss, it doesn't work well for muscle gain though.
Right.
So you have to eat the whole egg. You have to drink the whole milk. Yeah. You have to eat the bread. Eat the bacon. Use the condiments. Don't
Protein
use small
powders.
bowls. Like when I'm trying to cut, I won't, like if I wanted some chips, I'd put them in a bowl first and then I'd take that bowl and that's all I get to eat. If I'm trying to gain, I'm just going to take that bag, I'm just going to eat. No in between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think that hits most of that.
Yeah, so all the complication of everything that we just did all comes down to if you want to gain muscle, you got to lift and then you got to feed it.
Yep.
Put it in the simplest terms.
Lift, feed, sleep, repeat.
Yep. Lift, feed, sleep, repeat.
For 10 years, and then you might feel like you're getting somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. But we could talk sometime about like actual exercise and and that kind of stuff around. But the exercises that you do will pale in comparison to the food that you do eat as far as the muscle gain stuff goes.
I mean, food, I think of food, like food is the natural man's steroids. Like that's going to be the biggest factor.
Yeah.
In how
I really think that like when it comes to steroids, that like they just make you really hungry.
Oh yeah, you think that's?
I think that's part of it. Yeah, I really do.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, if everything's sped up, you're going to be able to eat more.
You can recover extremely fast, and you're just super, super hungry all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I've never actually taken steroids, so I should say. But everybody I know that's taken them says they're just like so hungry they can barely stand it.
Huh. Yeah. Maybe that's what I need.
Yeah, maybe. All right, you ready to shut her down?
Yep.
All right, cool. Thanks for being here, guys. A lot of really good stuff in this one. But please like, comment, share down below here. It helps us out a ton. We really appreciate you guys being here. And we'll be back with Eric. You going to be here next Thursday?
I should be, yeah.
All right, should be. Committing right now.
I'll
that
be there.
should commitment. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.